17-year-old Eric Carrasco was a Raza Norteno gang member from the Yakima Valley. On April 28, 2010, Mr. Carrasco shot his .45 Magnum 3 times into a green Saturn occupied by Alex Ixta, Romero Camacho, Baldomero Camacho, Macedonia Morales, and Storm Lopez. It just so happened that green Saturn that Eric Carrasco shot into was occupied by all Sureno gang members. Alex Ixta was the one person in that car who would not live to see April 29th when he was fatally wounded by one of those .45 rounds. What made this case catch headlines was the fact that Eric Carrasco would go to such lengths to shoot at his rivals, the fact that he was only 17, but more importantly, the fact that at 17, he would receive a 93-year sentence through a series of gang enhancements, firearm enhancements, a second-degree murder charge, and 4 Assault 1 charges. The jury did not believe Eric Carrasco's story of self-defense and sentenced him to what was equivalent to a life sentence.
Good evening, I'm Enrique Serna, and welcome to this KCTS 9 and KYVE 47 special report, Confronting Gang Violence. We're coming to you from the Capitol Theater in Yakima, where we have organized a town hall-style meeting to address the critical issue of gang activity and youth violence that is spreading across our state. For the next hour, we're going to take an in-depth look at the growing gang problem. I'm going to be joined by a panel of gang experts, policymakers, law enforcement, social workers, former gang members, and those touched by gang violence. In addition to those joining me here on the stage, we have invited a long list of people who deal with the problem every day: law enforcement, lawmakers, educators, community activists, parents, and many others. All are here to be part of our audience and to give us their thoughts and opinions. We want this program to be more than just another discussion about the gang problem. With the help of our panel and our audience, we will not only explore the problem, but take a hard look at solutions. What's working, what isn't, what needs to change. And we hope to really engage some of the key policymakers here tonight and you watching at home with the goal of starting meaningful change toward addressing the gang problem. Let's begin with a quick overview. Gangs are no longer just a problem for big cities like Seattle. They are in virtually every community across our state. We're talking about possibly hundreds of different gangs.
There is not a corner of this state which is unaffected by or unconcerned with the rising tide of gang activity and gang violence.
From Seattle to Spokane, Yakima to the Tri-Cities, Tacoma to Olympia, gang violence has become serious and deadly in Washington state.
It's young people often killing young people, and we're talking about kids 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, carrying guns, killing other kids of the same age group.
In early September, Yakima area residents took to the streets for an anti-gang rally. The community here knows all too well about gang violence. From April to late September, 18 people, including innocent bystanders, were wounded in gang-related shootings. So far this year, 90 gang-related cases have been referred to the Yakima County Prosecutors Office. 10 involve gun possession. 2 are homicides.
Don't tell me that these numbers lie and we don't face a pandemic gang violence in our community.
The open warfare among gangs is not exclusive to Central Washington. Last year in Seattle, 12 of 28 homicides in the city were gang-related. And in King County,
17 male teens or young adults were shot to death as a result of street gang disputes.
The 2009 National Gang Threat Assessment from the Department of Justice estimates there are some 2,100 gangs with more than 36,000 members criminally active in the Northwest. That's an increase of 12% since 2004. The assessment says gang members are responsible for as much as 80% of violent crime in some Northwest communities. And increasingly, middle school-age kids are being targeted for gang membership.
How many more children will we lose to street gang culture? How many more funerals will we have to attend? How much longer will youth fight and die over colors, turf, and being dissed? We can't solve all the problems in one meeting, but each of us can do something to bring about the change we need to save our children and to save our future.
Joining me now are two people who can tell us more about just how widespread this problem is. Dan Satterberg is the King County prosecuting attorney. Jim Haggerty is the Yakima County prosecutor, also a former U.S. attorney and former prosecutor in Klickitat County. Thank you both for being here. Well, let me begin with you, Mr. Satterberg. Let's talk about the problem in King County. How widespread? How many gangs? Do we have any idea?
We have dozens of gangs in King County. It cuts across all ethnic groups, all geographical parts of the county. Some are very involved in crime. Others are just involved in gang violence, fighting each other without a real criminal motive other than that. It's widespread, and the really alarming part is that we are seeing younger and younger people who are picking up guns and shooting each other.
And we're going to talk about that more as we discuss more of this issue. Mr. Haggerty, here in Yakima County, what are you facing?
I think our gangs are across the board, mostly Hispanics, and there's a number of different gangs that are engaged in the community, and they are younger, the younger members of that.
When we're talking younger, are we talking 12, 13, 14, that age?
Well, really, if a community wants to have an effective approach to gangs, you have to start with prevention at first grade, second grade. You have to start battling for the hearts and minds of these kids to make the gangs less attractive to them. At a certain point, when they start to become involved in minor crimes, the juvenile court has to really be involved in intervention. We have to have intervention in the schools effectively to try to pull kids back who start to get involved in gangs. At some point when the bullets start flying, that's when prosecutors get involved. Suppression of gang activity is what we do. But it would sure help to have a lot more prevention and a lot more intervention.
What kind of crimes are we talking about that are being committed by the gangs?
Primarily, we have the drive-by shooting, the homicides, narcotics sales on a limited basis, firearm sales, and then in any other assorted residential burglaries, car thefts, anything that they might get.
I guess the big question here is why? Why are we having such an increase in gang activity, the number of gangs? Why are so many kids being lured into this, or being attracted to it, I suppose?
I think the gang lifestyle fills a void in so many young people's lives. It's something to belong to. For people who don't have any other hope, who may have failed from school, maybe their parents could be in prison, maybe their parents are gang members. We've prosecuted children of people that I prosecuted when I started.
It's generational,
It is
right?
Generational. It's something. It's learned behavior. It's also, I think, glorified in the popular culture as something you want to be. We have gang members who say their whole desire in life is to become a pimp, and that's what they see out on TV. And so we have a gang right now. We've prosecuted a dozen of the 30 gang members for promoting prostitution and human trafficking, for grabbing 13, 14-year-old girls off the street and forcing them into a life of prostitution.
Mr. Haggerty, as we were coming over to Yakima to do this, and we had the discussions about doing this, and I heard this a lot from people, they were very concerned about Yakima's image in all of this, that don't portray us as the gang capital and all of that. The fact is, what's happening here, it is widespread. I mean, tell me about the other counties and what's being seen.
Well, I think we're mirroring the other counties. The gangs are spreading out. They're going into every area of the state itself. It happens to be that we have a focused area of gang activity, and the concern is that people see us as a gang haven, a gang area. But there are so much more to the county that is on the positive side of it.
4 people dead and 4 injured in 7 violent crimes over the weekend across Moxie, Sunnyside, Zillah, Yakima, and Union Gap.
Unfortunately, we've had just a nasty bout and some really unfortunate incidents where people have lost their lives.
On Saturday, we saw a fatal shooting inside a Moxie apartment, a man beaten to death in the city of Yakima, 3 people shot at a Sunnyside party. The suspect in that shooting shot dead by deputies in a shootout in Zillah. Then on Sunday, a man killed, a woman injured in a shooting at a Yakima home. And early this morning, teens on what is suspected to be a gang-related drive-by shooting spree hitting the city of Yakima and Union Gap. That weekend of violence in Yakima County, unfortunately not out of the ordinary. KVU's Emily Goodell spoke with law enforcement officers about what they are doing to address violent crime and a nonprofit that is working to prevent it, one young person at a time.
Yakima Police Department Captain Jay Seeley says they're seeing a spike in violent crime, and they don't know why.
And we lose a lot of sleep over this because we're trying to solve this as quickly as possible and hold those accountable for their behavior. And so it's very frustrating.
Yakima County Sheriff's spokesperson Casey Schilperut says they're seeing a spike too, and some of it is juvenile gang members and new legislative reforms restricting deputies' abilities to question them.
Even if they want to tell us all the gruesome things that they did in this particular scene, the state says that they can't.
And even when convicted, juveniles receive lighter sentences than adults.
And the juveniles know that, and the gangs know that, and so that's why you see more juvenile type crime.
Something Schilperut says they don't have the resources to address.
We are completely reactive. We don't have the staff, nor do we have the budget or the funds or the people to even consider thinking about having a prevention program.
But YPD has been able to make prevention efforts through the Walkabout Yakima program in partnership with the Dispute Resolution Center of Yakima and Kittitas counties. Program manager Ariana Rich says they connect the kids most at risk for gang violence with a mentor to give them any and all help they need to get out, stay out, and feel safe.
It's a requirement for them to be ex-gang members, so that we can really work with the youth, really understand where they're coming from.
Since 2020, the program has helped 36 kids and seen a 65% decrease in those kids' contacts with police.
Ultimately, our goal would be able to be bigger so that we can cater to more people. But right now, the demand is very high, but the supply of Walkabout Yakima is low in comparison.
If you want to help support the WAY program, call the Dispute Resolution Center of Yakima and Kittitas counties at 509-453-8949. In Yakima County, Emily Goodell, Cap KVUE, Local News.
I'm sitting here, stop the traffic, all over the journey for like entertainment. Trying to give them some space, you know what I mean? You know, Sound City, we in Washington and shit. It's all good. So a photo shoot for an album. Rap album photo shoot. So as you can see, this gang should be popping out here in Yakima, Washington, you know what I'm saying? So I don't even know what kind of neighborhood we in right now, but you can see on the walls, man, it's just going back and forth out here. Best believe we out here ready for whatever, you feel me? Shit was all the way down the whole fucking wall, huh? Jeff's hit first. Although, almost hit first.
All right, the Yakima police chief today shared a message from a local teacher remembering 14-year-old Charlie Taylor, who was killed in a gang-related shooting earlier this month. The teacher says Charlie had a contagious smile, was kind to others, and helped other students. The chief says he shared her heartfelt message to humanize Charlie and to say, regardless of the boy's involvement in gangs, his death was unacceptable.
She clearly connected with him and felt that he was a kind and sweet boy. He was good with other students. He was a leader. He was patient and treated other kids with respect. His life mattered. And it mattered to her, and it matters to me, and I hope it matters to the people of Yakima.
Murray's message also included a call to action. He's asking the community to step up, volunteer at local youth outreach organizations, get rid of graffiti, read to kids at school, and donate to charity. He says he hopes the community will band together to prevent further tragedies.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. I am back home. Had a great trip. Got the one video up for you guys about Stephen Walter Cook Stainless, the ABT general, who took a lot of pride in hurting his fellow gang members and even murdering one. Pretty crazy story. Again, go check out that documentary. It's on HBO Max. It's to take down to there here in Brother, Texas. But today, we're going to be going back to a state and a city that I've covered before. We're going to be going back to Yakima, Washington. And for those of you who haven't watched my videos before, man, Yakima is active. Yakima has a very heavy gang presence with Nortenos Surenos. They have a cartel presence. There's heavy hitters up there in Yakima, Washington. There are some really big dealings going on. They have a massive gang problem. And it is one of those where when I go back and I Google and look it up, they always have a story. They're always going to have something very interesting. Absolutely crazy. So digging through stuff, Googling stuff, came across the story of Eric Carrasco. When I was looking him up, he's got a pen pal, and I put the pictures up if anybody wants to reach out to him. You know, when I saw his story, I did kind of feel I had a little sympathy go out because he was only 17 at the time of the shooting. And you think about, one decision, one quick decision that can change your life. Now, obviously, you don't not think about the victim, Alex Ixta in this case, whose life was taken at the hands of that .45 that Eric Carrasco wielded and shot at his rivals. But just a sad case all around. This is kind of what you see with gang life. You see gang killings, and there's even one I was looking at. I almost did another one out of Yakima where a 15-year-old was killed by another 15-year-old, which happens not just in Yakima, not just in California or Texas. It happens everywhere. But you see that with the gangs, especially the Hispanic gangs. They're very young, the people committing the crimes and the victims of these crimes. And that was kind of the case with this. Carrasco was 17 at the time of the shooting. So we're going to read from an article. Then I found really good information on an appeal he filed back in 2023, looking for early release. Basically, and the premise of it was his age wasn't factored in to everything that was going on, into his sentencing, into how the trial was treated, but basically into the sentencing. And I'm sorry, not 2023. It was filed in 2013. Read that wrong, but 2013. And we're going to be, he filed multiple appeals, but the one I'm reading from with a lot of the information is one that he filed back on August 29th of 2013 in the Court of Appeals, Division 3 of the state of Washington. But we're going to quickly read from this first article. So a gang member from Yakima faces at least 67 years in prison after being found guilty on numerous charges in the 2010 shooting death of a 15-year-old rival gang member. So it was a 15-year-old rival. Eric R. Carrasco, 19, was convicted by a Yakima County jury of second-degree murder in the slaying of Alexis Ixta, as well as 4 counts of first-degree assault and 1 count of second-degree unlawful possession of a firearm with deadly weapon enhancements. Carrasco faces a standard-range sentence from 67 to 85 years in prison. Deputy Prosecutor Tammy Hanlon said he rejected a pretrial plea deal of 25 years, court records show. The jury of 9 women and 3 men rejected Carrasco's claim of self-defense in the death of Ixta, who suffered a gunshot wound to the back of his head as he and 4 other Surenos cruised rival Norteno Territory on North 4th Street. Carrasco, a member of the Raza Norteno, was 17 at the time but tried as an adult. Ixta and another youth were wounded when someone in their car allegedly tossed a can of beer at Carrasco, who testified he only fired after he thought he saw, quote, a shiny object in the car. Authorities found no guns or ammo in the car, and that was the car driven by the Sureno gang members. After they arrived on scene, Ixta shot dead. Another member was shot in the arm, but they didn't find anything, so that's kind of what they're going to go against when Carrasco says, well, I thought I was going to get shot. I saw this shiny thing coming out. I got trauma, and I just have friends that have been shot, and we're going to talk about that in the appeal. It's kind of what he says, which, isn't crazy to think, but at the same time, it's like he's been around, he's young, he's probably got another difference, but regardless, he's got lawyers, he's got to go with the story. He's trying to get his left time, he's trying to save his life. I don't blame any of that. So, authorities found no guns or ammo in the car. Police reported they had taken Ixta home, now check this out. They had taken Alexis Ixta home the day before the shooting with a warning to his parents that he was hanging out with gang members. So the day before, and you got to think that his parents probably live with this to this day, the day before their son is murdered, police pick him up, take him home, because remember, he's only 15. They tell his parents, hey, look who he's hanging out with. Okay, get him out of here, get him out of the streets. This is not going to end well. And then literally the next day, he's shot in the head in the back of a Saturn, hanging around in rival Norteno Territory, basically instigating something like this to happen. And I'm sorry, it's just different when they're young. If these guys were 25 rolling around doing this, I'd be like, what do you expect? But when you're 15, 16, 17, and that goes for the shooter, Eric Carrasco, it's more, you're not thinking, you're just reacting. Eric Carrasco sees rivals, they're in his territory, he's going to shoot. Alex Ixta, he's with some guys that were either his age and probably older. Hey, man, you down? Let's go. Let's go roll around. Let's go cause havoc. Let's go find somebody. Let's go find somebody slipping. Let's go catch somebody slipping. We got a car full of us. Didn't go as planned. So, according to court records, Carrasco had a growing juvenile record at the time of the shooting that included a felony conviction for unlawful possession of a firearm and lesser convictions for harassment, obstruction, fighting in public, third-degree malicious mischief, and trespassing. So he was getting up there. He was heading a certain direction in his life. He was 17, about to be an adult. So this is what we've talked about in so many of my my videos. So in addition to the weapons enhancements, the jury also returned verdicts on multiple gang aggravators that allowed the judge the discretion to tack on even more time to Carrasco's sentence. Hanlon questioned whether that was necessary in this case. Even at the low end of the standard range of 67 years, it's close to a life sentence, she said. That's the prosecutor, okay? That's the prosecutor saying that. He ended up getting 93 years. They did not hold back. And it's a combination of things. One, it's they're trying to make a statement with this, that they're not going to be lax on crime. It's a 15-year-old that gets shot. You have a lot of community outrage. And they're trying to make a statement. They're trying to prevent other crime. And then I'm not naive to the fact that race plays a part in it as well, where race is... You don't want to say it's a thing, but it is. You have a young colored kid, and, he's just a gang member. He's just a throwaway. Who cares? Throw the book at him. You wonder if it was a white kid that did it. Would that be the same sentence? Probably not. But I get that he also had a rising juvenile record. So they can point to, look at what he's been doing. This was building, okay? Now, we're going to read from this appeal that he filed end of August 2013, okay? I'm not going to read through all of it, but basically it talks about how was the evidence insufficient to support the first-degree assault convictions before the state failed to disprove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt. Mr. Carrasco was charged by amended information with 1 count of second-degree murder, 2 counts of first-degree assault, and 1 count of second-degree unlawful possession of a firearm. It was also alleged, furthermore, you committed any of the above-listed current offenses. He was actually charged with 4 assault 1 charges, but anyway. So we're going to read from this. So on April 28th, 2010, Mr. Carrasco shot his .45 Magnum 3 times into a green Saturn occupied by Alex Ixta, Romero Camacho, Baldomero Camacho, Macedonio Morales, and Storm Lopez. And it just so happened that all the persons in that Saturn were Sureno gang members. Mr. Carrasco happened to be a member of a rival gang, the Nortenos, and specifically Raza. Mr. Ixta died from a gunshot wound to the head, and Romero Camacho was shot in the left arm. The state successfully sought to introduce gang evidence through a gang expert, Detective Drew Shaw. In its oral ruling, the court stated, Well, you know the difficulty here, I guess, from the defense standpoint, is that you can't excise the gang evidence and testimony from the circumstances of particular homicides. It's a red on blue, or I guess from the defendant's standpoint, it's blue on red. Because remember, he said, well, I saw something shiny coming out of the car. If self-defense is to be credited, and it's motivated by the animosity between the two. So what, to break this down for you guys, what he's saying is that you, in order to tell the full story, which may or may not more hurt Carrasco's appeal, more likely hurt, you have to, they're talking about the gang evidence, right? Was gang evidence, improperly used? Was it used too much against him? But what he's saying is, I'm just going to read you what he says. So I do have some weighing in regard to the fact of the matter is that the evidence is critical, essential, and undeniably probative on the issues of motive and intent. It has some obviously prejudicial effect. The prejudicial effect, I'm afraid, is because of the strong probative value of the evidence and the fact that it permeates this particular event, that the probative value significantly outweighs any prejudicial effect. This particular trial, the events that occurred or are alleged to have occurred, cannot be explained and understood in any context other than the context of this being a gang-related event, regardless of whether Mr. Carrasco was, regardless of his motivation, regardless of whether he acted in self-defense. If he acted in self-defense, it's still self-defense to the gang-motivated aggression of the people who he shot at, who were of the rival gang. So it seems to me it's just impossible to excise the gang aspect of this case away from the other aspect. You can't separate the two, is what he's saying. I also think it's appropriate to provide some expert testimony, assuming that your expert can qualify on these issues that are outside the knowledge of lay people and people on the street, people who are not involved or familiar with these particular aspects of culture for this particular group of people. So I think under these circumstances that some expert testimony to explain some of the otherwise incomprehensible, perhaps ideology, is appropriate. So all that means is you have to be able to explain why Eric Carrasco did what he did. And you can't do that without understanding gang culture. And what they're saying is, even if you acted in self-defense, Eric Carrasco, you were afraid, you saw something shiny coming out the window, you were still in that situation because you are a gang member and you saw rivals and you proceeded to go after them, okay? And what it says is that the Surenos in the car were yelling like their gang names and expletives. Well, Carrasco hears this. They're on 4th Street in Yakima, and they're in his territory. They're in his hood, and he's not going to let it slide. But by not letting it slide, by engaging with these people, the only reason he engaged is because they're rivals. And to be honest, they're probably rivals that he knows because of the age. They're probably people he knows. These are things that, Anyway, so then it goes on to talk about how they had a witness, okay? I really like reading from this appeal for you guys because I feel like this gives you guys some good information. If you can, give me some feedback in the comments below. Let me know if you like something like this because I really feel like this gives an insight better than just an article can. I'm going to really be doing more of this if I can. But the court's ruling was apparently not reduced to a written order. Ernesto Cuevas lived on 1004 North 4th Street in Yakima, Washington. Mr. Carrasco was visiting on April 28, 2010, where the shooting took place. In a May 22, 2010 interview with police, Mr. Cuevas said he saw a can thrown out of the green Saturn and saw what could have been a gun from in back of the driver's side. Remember that. Mr. Carrasco testified in his own defense. He acknowledged. Eric Carrasco got up on the stand at 17 years old, and he testified in his own defense, which they do that when it's a Hail Mary. So the defense, just by reading that, by seeing that, that tells me the defense goes, we're probably going to lose this case. Because if you have a strong defense, the last thing they're going to do is put up a 17-year-old gang member up on the stand that the prosecution's going to have a chance to cross-examine and honestly a chance to just rip to shreds this story. So they didn't have a strong defense. So they put him up there as a Hail Mary, hoping that the jury would sympathize, hoping that they would see him as a kid. Maybe you bite off on the self-defense, but that's called a Hail Mary with legal terms. So Mr. Carrasco would go on to testify in his own defense. He acknowledged socializing at Ernie and Miguel Cuevas' house on 4th Street. A green car with a lot of people inside pulled up to the Mercado on 4th Street, which is a store. Ernie went inside, Nick Castro, Jasmine Johnson, and Mr. Carrasco tried to get everybody to leave, quote, in case something did occur. The car pulled out and went north on 4th Street on the intersection with J Street. The car's occupants, quote, did some yelling, screaming their hood and their names. The names they were screaming out were Surenos and VSL, and that's, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing about it. Oh, God, Surenos, Locos. I don't know. I forgot what the V stands for. Somebody can answer that. That'd be great. Mr. Carrasco was affiliated with the Nortenos, but the Surenos screaming this stuff. He described what happened next. The passenger sitting behind the passenger kind of stuck his body out the window, threw a beer can. It hit my head. Oh, man. Yeah, he's pissed. The passenger at the same time that's in the passenger behind the driver pulled out to what probably looked to be as a pistol. He was, quote, scared for my life and the life of my friends that are right there with me, he explained. From various times of having my house shot at and just getting shot at from walking from place to place, I started carrying a gun. So I had a gun with me, pulled out the gun, and shot 3 times at the car. Eric Carrasco ran home. The gun he had was a .45 Magnum. He got rid of it by throwing it in the river. He did not come forward initially, and he said, scared that I wouldn't be believed. We got shootings all the time. Most of the time, you ain't going to have a police officer believe you did something to protect yourself. Protect someone's life just because of who you are and what you represent as, people to depend on to protect you. The police ain't going to take that as self-defense. They're going to think, yes, you want to go for retaliation or to go put in work. But I mean, they had come to a different neighborhood, knowing what they were doing, obviously. That hit me a little bit because I believed that. Yeah, he's a kid. He wanted revenge. He got hit in the head with a beer can. He's a kid. He acted out. I will just give you this. I think 93 years is too long. I think 20, okay? I think, he's 17. He gets out in his late 30s. He's still somewhat of a young man. 93 years, I don't agree with that. I do not agree with 93 years. And it's easy for me to say, I get it. I've never had a family member as a victim of gun violence. And I know some people could say, well, tell that to Alex Easta's family. I would want to know. I said, after time passed, not in the moment, obviously you're mad. If, let's say I ask him 10 years down the road and I said, hey, if this kid did 20, 25 years, would you be satisfied? I'd really be interested in their answer. You might be surprised. He had written a letter, this is Carrasco, written a letter to his then girlfriend expressing remorse. It states, one day I'll be the reason for the birth of another baby, and when this one is born, and he's a boy, he'll be named Alexis for the fact that I was the reason for the death of an Alexis. Wow. And now I, too, want to be the reason or the birth of another Alexis. Eva, I'm an effing dumbass. Who the F confesses to something like that? Man. Mr. Carrasco was just trying to scare them away when he shot. He did not intend to kill anybody. No exceptions were taken to the court's instructions. The jury convicted Mr. Carrasco of 1 count of second-degree murder, counts 2 through 5 first-degree assault, and count 6 second-degree unlawful possession of a firearm. They returned special enhancements with the gang aggravators. The court sentenced Mr. Carrasco to consecutive terms of 294 months for second-degree murder, plus a 60-month firearm enhancement and 20 months for the gang aggravators, 123 months plus a 6-month firearm enhancement, and a 20-month exceptional sentence for the gang aggravators on each counts 2 through 5. Each counts, and a concurrent term of 22 months for count 6. In total, the total confinement was 1,126 months. Eric Carrasco's appeal failed. It also failed again in 2023. And he is still currently locked up, having doing some serious time. I'm going to let this one sit on you. This one hit me in a different way. I'm not going to lie. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.